Hello guys, and welcome back to Trekyards. He's Commander Calkins.
He's the one and only Captain Foley.
And today we're talking about 5 more episodes of Star Trek Prodigy Season 2. So we're starting at episode 6, which is Imposter Syndrome. Doing number 7, The Fast and the Curious. Number 8, Is there in Beauty No Truth? And then 9 and 10, it's a two-parter, but The Devourer of All Things.
Go watch our first review batch, where we hadn't seen the series yet. And once again, this is our first reaction, kind of, to the second batch. I don't know where it's going, so this is all conceptual. What did you think of episode 6 to 10? And the second batch, but really, like last season, the 10 was like building to a thing. So is that same thing? What do you think?
I was a little disappointed, honestly, with 6 and 7. They felt like a little bit throwaway episodes. There's not much that really happens in them. Number 8 is, of course, important because we get the Zero thing, getting a body and feelings, which we saw telegraphed from the beginning of this season. And then, of course, the Devourer of All Things. I mean, that just turns into a Doctor Who episode. I really enjoyed 9 and 10, the Devourer of All Things. Is there no beauty in beauty, no truth? I think was really good as well. Kind of Avatar-ish, though. But yeah, The Fast and the Curious I could have done without, and Imposter Syndrome was kind of funny shenanigans type deal, but those are kind of my takes on it. It definitely ramped up, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes from there, because the Wesley thing was awesome. How about you? What did you think of all of them?
I think the quote-unquote problem is that the first 5 are a really solid thing. Lots of story build up, lots of thing, and then suddenly from this giant place of 5, we ramp the pace down so radically for 6 and 7 that it feels like, you know, whiplash. The universe is at stake. Time has been changed. In theory, things are being wiped out across, like, this universe is breaking apart, and no one seems to care for the first 2 parts. And Janeway's just casually lingering towards Earth, despite they can slipstream there in 1 second. There's a real problem with pacing those two. They should have either have had the first 5 be slower and have those one-offs for the kids in between, or continue the fast pace and find a natural stopping point. Because to go from the toppest of pace right down to a crawl, where the Kazon one is so unbelievably of the week. The last 2, I think, are good, but not as good as I thought they were going to be. That's a problem. I heard people saying they were really good, and they were fine. But like I say, a lot of running, the kids were sort of just there. They didn't really do anything in the plot, so it was more just about look at stuff that's happening, but our characters don't really do anything. And I find it progressively more annoying every time the Starfleet just keep firing phasers at these things, knowing that it's not going to work, because it's pointless screen time. I'd rather them do clever things. You know, Jeremy firing a phaser, it's like, do it once narratively and then move on, because it's just padding time without any form of tension. And since these are the most OP things ever, it's like, again, there's a problem with tension, because so they weren't as strong as I was hoping. The Wesley stuff obviously was interesting, but the stories themselves, I think, weren't as good as they could have been. Had they been, I guess, led up to better? Because it's kind of like, let's pad a bit, and then this big, giant exposition dump, and then moving on. But it's not organically flowing.
Yeah. Well, the padding a bit goes back to 20 episodes. It's an episodic feel for Star Trek, where some are kind of lighthearted. But yeah.
Which you like, in theory.
I do. But I mean, they take the Infinity, and it's going to be 61 days to get to their destination.
Finally, some distance.
So, until we find a transwarp corridor that
just happens to be there.
Voyager finding them, like even to the planet, it just seemed really.
Oh yeah, how do they find them?
And odd. They tracked the warp signature, but
and then the transwarp signature. Somehow.
Yeah,
that's actually
and
a good point.
How
do you do that?
And then figured out how to have the planet show up. Like that's never explained. That's very sidelined, and that's kind of fine in a way, because it just get things rolling and get things moving. There's a lot on Voyager we didn't see. We didn't see a lot of Voyager in those episodes. So yeah, we can just imagine an episode of Voyager where they're figuring all that stuff out. We just didn't see it, right? So
yeah, I suppose.
An interesting fact. I mean, Janeway's shuttle has quantum torpedoes. Now, are those micro torpedoes? Like, there's some oddities there. And even, before you jump in on that, Voyager firing its phasers from different locations, right from the tip of the saucer, and then they're back further, and then they're back to the front again. Yeah. But they've always had an issue with that, even in season 1, with phaser placement, so
RCS phasers, the new invention in Starfleet tech. Yeah,
One.
I mean, they've got to be microquantums, and it does seem unnecessary to say fire the microquantums. And this is a giant shuttle, but to give a shuttle quantums is a giant deal. I'm not sure if they quite realize how big that is. And then it's funny. So when I skimmed this season, I saw that as a visual. I thought it'd be a giant epic action scene because I only saw an out of context shot, and it's a zero moment. Fire them. They don't do anything. She crashes. It's the most anticlimactic non-fight.
So it's all, there's things that are progressing the plot, and I love that. I think Prodigy does a much better job of that than Discovery did, of keeping that serialized arc and building towards it, but in an episodic kind of format. So
it's just, like I said, it's to go from the 7, 9, 8, 7, 8, 9, 9.5 out of 10 universe destroying pace, and then doing it all the way down again. That's the issue, because if Zero destroyed his body in the past, if there had been more episodes in the past, it would have felt more organic. Now, it might be because watching it week by week, it feels like there's 60% of the episode that's not needed for, like, say, 40% for the plot. If it was week on week, maybe it would feel like, that's a full story moving on. Maybe binging it changes that a bit. So episode 6, obviously, holo duplicates. The one thing that I didn't buy is that you see almost no crew on the Voyager the entire time. These characters can't be running around in the way they were in every scene and not bumping into anybody. And that's every single scene. 800-person crew. So that episode felt super problematic in that. And I don't believe they can program holograms that well that can... Like, that's inventing a giant tech. That you can invent a holo crew that can fly ship perfectly and have life signs. That's a god tech in itself.
Yeah. No, it was a fun episode for, like...
Season 1.
Well, that's
perfect season 1 episode.
And the demographic for the viewership, if you are aiming for kids, it was kind of a fun episode in that regard.
It was very fun, although it was very confusing because there was zero way of knowing who was who. So I was just like, it doesn't matter who's who because I can't tell.
The one thing that interests me was when Janeway and the Doctor come into the holodeck and everybody's like, hide. I didn't realize it till the second viewing that the actual kids hid because they knew that the holograms thought they were real. So let the holograms deal with Janeway. Then when Janeway left, they're like, okay, they fooled Janeway, so they're good. I thought that the holograms were the ones that were hiding, and which Dal would have jumped out and like, Admiral Janeway. So I'm glad, like, I missed it the first time, but in the second viewing, I did notice that they said the holograms fooled Janeway, which I loved. So
yes, but also they could be thinking they're holograms. Like, I just got the sense that they're just a group that's accepted to go that way. Because if they all think they're real, then like, it was a bit confusing. I wish there was like a tell, so you could keep track of who was who.
Well, I did too. Every time I watched it, I'm like, I wish I knew who was who exactly, but it's kind of fun that you don't in a way as well, right? So,
and then also, right at the end, they say we're out of the Voyager sensor range, despite being in visual range, and then warp away. Yeah, and then also detecting their warp signature, which means they would detect it anyway. Like, you know that there are passive scanners that would detect a warp signature leaving system. You can't do both and neither. So that whole escape doesn't work. I don't think you could site-to-site beam without being known to a ship that's going to thing out of sensor range. Yeah. It doesn't work structurally.
And the thing too, launching Infinity into the sun, fine idea, but Voyager would monitor the small little poof on the sun.
Would confirm.
Yes. So yeah, there are problems with that, but
so that one I think out of the 10 is the weakest by far in terms of logic. That's okay. Episode 7 though, the Kazon one. I love
Fast and the Curious. Yeah.
I love the idea of this from the trailer concept, but it's so wait, what? And then a twist at the end. Like, I kept thinking, why is this happening?
Yeah, it was a filler episode, legit. Like, they got pulled out of a transwarp corridor by this machine that wanted to make the perfect pilot for some reason, so it killed a bunch of people, made some robots, controlled a Kazon guy. It was just to have Zero sacrifice themselves to, like, and
a cool action episode for the trailer and stuff.
Damaged body, yeah, for sure.
And more Kazon, I guess. And I'm guessing, based on the dialogue, that computer at the end was meant to be based on Borg tech because it was talking like a Borg mostly. Perfection, and it was very careful cadence. And given they used Borg transport conduit, I'm guessing they used some sort of reclaimed Borg tech to make it because it was very similar dialogue. Didn't lead anywhere, but I was like, this sounds like a Borg queen almost.
Could be. I didn't even really consider that.
Because they have a Borg transport.
None of the visuals said Borg at all.
Well, no, but the dialogue, making the perfect you will be one with us, and they, making them, it felt very Borgy. Episode 8, I did like episode 8. 0, that was good.
And that was is there in beauty no truth.
I think at that point I accepted we're just having filler, non-main content stories for a bit. I think at that point I'd accepted that, so I was more enjoy it. But it's very Avatar. I like the creature a lot, although seeing the inside of its mouth as no organs, just a flat 3D model, was kind of amusing.
That's because it's made to be like a manta ray. That's kind of how they look inside. So
it's just funny from a 3D perspective, seeing like just clearly as a 3D model texture thing looked a bit odd. Cool body. And that's better than I thought from the trailer. I thought they were random aliens. The fact they were non-corporeal creature body was really a nice twist on that. I really liked that as a concept.
Now, the thing that's interesting to me is once you leave here, your body deteriorates. Well, yes. But if you're non-corporeal and you put yourself in a physical body, from a non-corporeal point of view, where you live hundreds of thousands of years, you'd be like, yeah, your body deteriorates. Yeah, it grows old is what it does. So I'm wondering if that's exactly what they're meaning, or if there's something more to that. So, because it just grows old.
And I was shocked.
They weren't lying. They were just telling the truth. And
I was shocked that it didn't disintegrate for the next episode. I thought that was the setup, which is fine. Well, I'm kind of confused because obviously the idea of the non-corporeal is you've in theory you've evolved past the corporeal to get to the non-corporeal. So therefore, now obviously if you've been born non-corporeal, you might look back and say, hey, when you were a caveman, that's great. But these are meant to be evolved species that have gone past physical. So it's odd to make the going back to it seem like the end all be all. It seems like a slightly odd concept. I really wish they'd had any subtext of Zero in season 1 about wanting to feel and touch. I got zero sense of that, and so for it to be his giant plot point this season of like, I want to feel. It's like, do you?
They drilled into that hard episode 1 on this season, so.
But cool design, good acting, just odd, right? But like you say, it was just to get the body, because the body's more important than the robot. Although, as we determined from the trailer, there's another robot body coming later, which we worked out, kind of a black one with stuff on it.
The better looking one, because I never liked the white one.
Although it grew on me a little bit.
Yeah.
And then episode 9 and 10, talk about it as one. So the big Wesley Crusher.
Things. Like I said, Doctor Who. He's quirky. He's talking about timelines. He's like think. It's very Doctor Who, and I don't know if I'm the only one that noticed that. Probably not. I did talk to Aaron Waltke about it after I watched it, and he's like, yeah, well, we figured if that kind of stuff happens to somebody at that age, they might get a little quirky later on. And it's like, yeah, well, 100%. I did love that whole those 2 episodes were great. Few small things, like I said, like the phasers and quantums and stuff, but overall I really enjoyed it. I did like seeing the Traveler statue, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. And that all caught me by surprise, even though it was kind of spoiled a little bit in one of my late night lives. Somebody super chatted in, and what did you think of Wesley? And I was like, oh, I haven't seen that yet. So I knew it was coming, but it was still a great surprise, honestly. And it's funny because in the second part 2, episode 10, he does say no one likes spoilers, which I thought was kind of funny because, but yeah, I mean the creatures that can erase you from time, like all evidence you ever existed, was really cool. But at the same time, they were like right in front of you, snarling, and they got these tendrils. They could just like be slapping everybody. And a lot of Voyager crew is gone now. So,
or were they ever there to begin with?
Oops. Yeah, well, exactly. What did you think? Did you think it was Doctor Who-esque?
I mean, there's so much time travel shenanigans in Trek. I was just like, how are they interpreting it? You know, because he doesn't travel in time in the story. So until we get that, you know what I mean. So he was more of a man that was out of phase, if that makes sense. So I didn't know it was Wesley per se. I'd seen a guy with a beard, but I don't think he looks like Wesley.
Oh, I think he looks very much like Wesley. I think their likenesses are really spot on in this show.
Yeah, I didn't think that when I skimmed. He was my like 2 or 3 options, right? Because of Picard. I was like, okay, that could be Wesley, but I didn't know it was. And then you're right, someone spoiled it like a week ago. So I was like, oh no, okay, it is. So I knew, and that would have been a nicer reveal, of course, had it been. But knowing it was him was good acting. I preferred him much more than Picard, who's I rewatched and is very stoic and is kind of dull. This was more fun. And given that he has grey beard there, like, that's an older Wesley, but then this is whatever.
Well, that's the other thing, because he says he's been alone for a long time, but yet in Picard, he comes by and picks up Corey, or whatever her name was.
I wonder how much those teams collaborate. That scene felt like an addition right at the last second. So they might have written that based on the Prodigy. Like, oh, anyway, we'll have to ask Aaron about that at some point. But he was good, and he tried to explain time and such, and it's all very confusing. I'm sure we'll debate about it at some point, like what it really means.
He did all the timelines, and even mentioned the mycelial one. It's like, oh, forget that. It doesn't exist.
That's the spoiler one, yeah. It's about happening 100 years ago. But I just think that the temple I thought was going to play a bigger part and mean more, but it was just location. Cool location, but just location. There was nothing there to be interesting, right? It was just fun location. I didn't like as much running, because again, if the creatures are that OP, they can phase through anything, they can travel through time, they can kill you and erase you from history, and yet they can be fine. It's very hard to pace against something that, like, you can't kill them, you can't stop them, you can't whatever. And of course...
The loom, that's what they're called, yeah.
And of course, given that they are in a broken timeline, which their job is to erase, it's also slightly hard to... Because now they've killed that many people from the universe is now even more... Because if you lose 200 of your crew, those are now no longer existed. So all the events they happened in the past have now been changed, which means even more things are unraveling, which means this universe is basically, like, gone. So it's hard to kind of root for it in the same way, because it doesn't matter who dies, because they're gonna undo everything and yeah.
I get where they're going with it. Once that timeline is broken, this comes in and devours every little bit of it to the point where it diverged. That's how I read it, because of the chart. It was like showing them eating this one, and it went up to like there. So I kind of like that idea. That way, there's no like remnants of it, but.
Well, yeah, because time remnants, if you you can cause more chaos. But like I say, then if these people are dead, then that changes the... Or if they're not going to be dead, then it doesn't matter, they killed them. And the idea of them being erased... It's like the silence in Doctor Who. If they're being erased from history, then anyone without the armband doesn't know the threat exists. Because all they're seeing is a big creature, but like, they're not doing anything! Yeah, because you're not remembering they're killing your crew. It's a funny concept of that, but the armbands obviously make the difference there. And good for the Doctor. What a lad to be able to invent, they can stop, the galactic moths, which is universal, right? These are god creatures, and he's able to immune them from them-ish.
Although I didn't like, let's put on an armband, and then beep, just put them on.
Yeah, they should be on from second one. Yeah, that was again a slightly false pace setting.
Because if you don't get to that in time, why even have it, right?
And like I say, when I skimmed it, it's like I saw the 1960s set, and I was very excited for that. But it's just a place to sit. It doesn't play any part in the story, nor in the grander narrative, except the fact that we're seeing what they say in Picard. So I think I expected more use out of the elements versus just we have to go A and then to B, then to C, and then leave.
Yeah.
Because that's all it was. The kids didn't... what could they do? They're kids, but...
Yeah, seeing the Assignment Earth thing was great. And I love that Wesley even said this is a defunct whatever. Nobody uses this anymore. This time junction or whatever it was. I thought that was interesting. But I hated the fact that Wesley's like, no. We can't save Magella because they'll lock on us. And Dow's like, nope. And then Magella falls. The thing's like right on top of her. And yes, they come in like a minute later and find them, but it's just that kind of annoyed me. It's like, you don't start messing with time, Dal.
And also, Wesley didn't preset an escape route, so how did Dal know what button to press to create a portal that would happen to bring her here?
Yeah.
He doesn't. And also, Wesley saying...
That one was written by Aaron Walke, by the way, episode 10.
I mean, makes some sense, but a lot of stuff to cram in. But it's interesting that Wesley said, we'll let Magella go, because it also meant that Magella will die from all time, and only Gwen has a time emitter, so instantly Zero would forget that Magella existed. So it's not just let her die, it's let her never be born, which then will change the past as well. That's a big thing to allow someone to get erased from the universe and all time.
Just that timeline. That's what I mean. It just doesn't where the timeline branched off. She'd still be in the original one before it branched. That's what the Devourers do. They eat the remnants of the one that...
which is why it's tricky because it's a dead timeline. We can't save it which is fine, but it's odd.
He does point out he's saving the prime timeline. He does say that, which I think is great.
Yeah, it's just odd because they have to. Yeah, they took a very different approach to it than I was expecting.
And I also like the fact that he realizes that you all have to stay together. You all have to stay together, and then it's like, what's the variable I'm missing? Oh, there's supposed to be 7 of you. You're supposed to be here. I thought that was kind of great, actually.
Yeah, it felt very Doctor Who as well. Like the magic time magic needs another body. Bring the adventure.
But yeah, no, I thought those two were fantastic. It was a great closeout to these next 5, I think. Yeah, well, the thing you said at the beginning is kind of what it's been weighing heavy on me since I watched it. Yes, the timeline is unraveling. Gwen it's a temporal it's a temporary fix or armband. 61 days to get there. It's like, oh really? It just kind of bugs me because there is no sense of urgency really.
Well, and also if she's out of phase, which means that there is elements of this timeline that can't exist, then the Vindicator should stop existing. Anything that is affected by the timeline changes is being out of phased, as well as the monsters coming in and killing you. So it's a bit convoluted, right? I think it makes sense from some perspectives, but it's might be a whole debate we have to have with Aaron, just like which version, which like, cause obviously like Star Trek Enterprise like erases time, right? There's lots of variations of how they do it. Be interested to see his logic of like, yeah, because Wesley did say it's because you were temporally shielded in the wormholes. It's like a unique within a unique. So this is a ridiculously specific situation, right? You have to have a temporal breach to the past and temporal shielding in the past through a wormhole and also change time to create this branch. It's a very specific version. So this isn't just go back and take this person out of time. You've reset time. It's very different. So it's kind of a new version. But then also there's alternate, like, why is Wesley trying to save it? A little bit confusing, right?
He's trying to save it because his mom's in this timeline, he said. But
I don't know why he couldn't just go back and stop Dahl from leaving the phaser rifle and then therefore uncause the problem and fix it. Like, he can time travel and universe travel. Like, if the point is to keep a good timeline, just undo that, and then the time will never exist, and you're done. There was never an explanation why he couldn't do anything himself, because he wasn't. He was just pressing buttons.
I think he's the one that ends up fixed the Infinity.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's all the guys.
Yeah, he's the guy that Murph was talking to, who thought was like maybe Future Guy. Maybe he is Future Guy. The voice modulator.
That would be kind of interesting. Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, we should see the next 10 lead, because we've certainly set the stage now. And obviously the ending was great with Chakotay, with the beard, with the protostar, which of course all has to be undone as well. Like, this has to be erased. Like, it's odd to live in a story where everything has to be erased. You know it's going to be undone because it has to be, right? It's an odd place to be. They can kind of do whatever they want. So this Chakotay is a non-character, but how can they have fun with that, right?
Lots of discussion points. When you get time travel involved, you see a lot of plot holes, but they're not plot holes because quantum mechanics and then blah, blah,
Don't
blah,
worry,
blah,
any
blah.
plot hole be eaten by the moths, it's fine.
Yeah. Anyway, I think, it's very cleverly well written this season so far. I'm really digging where they're going, and I'm hoping that it keeps up and actually gets better. But I gotta give them props, because you watch this and then you remember back to Discovery.
Don't do that.
Season of Discovery, and it's like, this is Star Trek. I'm excited to watch it. I'm invested.
Mm-hmm.
It feels Star Trek, and then Discovery is like, so anyway.
Yeah, and this is one of those things where I think I can't imagine there be any padding episodes in 11 to 20. Everything will be a plot point episode. I think they had to do those couple to get to the end point. So I'm imagining they're all going to be very, like, to the point now.
I'm looking at some of the episode titles, and I'm not so sure, but...
I mean, they can be misleading. Because like, they've got a universe dying, a universe to save, timeline to change, Valnacat plot we've forgotten about, Zero's love life, really important plot points to deal with. So I think they're done with filler. They've had their fun. They've given the kids the whatever. The kids now in on the time travel, like, because now they explained it, we can move forward. and it'll be big stuff and whatever.
All right, guys, we've talked about a lot. We want to hear your thoughts on episodes 6 through 10. Let us know in the comment section down below what you thought, and even about our discussion. We want to hear it. Hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell icon so you don't miss any lives or breakdown videos we do, because there's a lot to talk about, and we love talking about it with you guys.
And if you want to support what we do here to make these very unique breakdown videos, no one does this stuff, Stuart. We are the only ones, and we love it. We love doing that unique content. Then support us on Patreon. It's monthly, or join the channel also monthly. $5 a month, $10 a month makes a big difference enough you give. Or one-time donations via super chatting during live, of the interactive tool, super thanksing on a video like this one, huzzah, or PayPal, trekyards@hotmail.com. Anything you can give helps us do trips and such. So if you can, please do.
That's right. So until next time, because time is relevant, I guess. He's Commander Cocky.
He's Captain Foley.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.